13 minutes past 9 now on the Kiwi.
All about games. It's Games Junkie Gerard Campbell from stuff.co.nz.
Let's play tonight. The tale of rock is long and fabled. A journey that began in the dark days of metal, when a simple man fought his way from roadie to rock god.
Hell yeah!
That wasn't a very good rock scream. Hello to you, Gerard Campbell, Game Junkie from the stuff.co.nz Game Junkie blog. Good morning.
Good morning, man. Was it your war cry, was it?
Yeah, that was pathetic. The voice of... I was going to say, the voice of Jack Black, obviously.
Yes, he is Eddie Riggs, the old heavy metal roadie. Yeah, I think we'll both have to do a bit of work to sort of meet up to the stature of Eddie Riggs, I think.
Absolutely. Now, the game is Brutal Legend. Tell us about this.
Yeah, Brutal Legend is, it comes from a game maker called Tim Schafer, who is, probably one of the most respected and most renowned game designers around. He was involved in, the original Monkey Island series way back on PC, the point-and-click adventure. He did a brilliant game on PC called Grim Fandango, which was another point-and-click. And then he did one for the original Xbox called Psychonauts, which is really good. And the thing that, really appealed to me about those games, especially Grim Fandango and Psychonauts, was a really good sense of humour. They've got a strong story and strong vein of humour going through. And in some ways, this is carried through in Brutal Legend. Brutal Legend is set in. I almost think that it's almost played out like it's a heavy album, and you're playing your way through the album. Stuff with Eddie Riggs, and as we see, it was played by Jack Black. So and the character even sort of looks a wee bit like Jack Black. Yeah. But it starts out with, Eddie Riggs he's the typical roadie. He's loyal to the band, but the band he's not really that keen on. It's sort of a tweeny sort of heavy metal band that they sort of play sort of almost poppy music with heavy metal. And early on in the game, Eddie's talking to one of his roadie mates, and he says he'd like to go back to a time when the music meant something and music was better, and the other guy says the 70s, and Riggs says no, earlier than that, the early 70s. So it's that sort of thing that comes through, but it's all set in a heavy metal landscape. So when there's an accident in the very opening section of the game in which Riggs gets transported back into this heavy metal themed world, and he's going to be facing off against sort of evil sort of nuns that, sort of sexy at the same time, but you sort of shouldn't, disturb the skitty things, and there's, and there's headbangers, and there's, this whole, and you go around the landscape, and there's spark plugs coming out of the ground, and there's huge chrome engines hanging from trees and that sort of thing, and you've got starring voice roles from people like, Ozzy Osbourne. Right, cool. He does one of the characters, and there's Lemmy from, I think it's Motorhead, and there's Lita Ford, and those sorts of things. So it seems to be a real tribute to, the heavy metal, that age. And I think too that for me, for most of the time the game worked. I think it sort of seems to be a cross of really heavy combat. There's lots of combat sequences where he's got to swing an axe, and he's got a guitar called Clementine that he can. You get almost little on-screen. It's almost very Guitar Hero-esque, where you get, maybe 4 or 5 notes scroll across the top of the screen, and if you hit those in time, you could melt the faces off an enemy, or you could get lightning that will zap your other enemies. So it's playing on that, and there are also some sort of minor real-time strategy elements that come into it too. And I sort of I got confused with those. I mean, I have trouble with real-time strategy games as it is anyway, because I can't really deal with, have to do several commands all at once and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there are certain moments where Eddie has to, and it tends to be scenes where there's big battle sequences, so you've got enemies coming at you from all sides, and you have to coordinate where your units are going to go, where you're going to send your biker chicks or your headbangers in what direction, and that's sort of got a wee bit confusing for me. So I mean, the parts that I really liked was I love the action, I love the combat and just the humour of it. So I mean, it seems to be classic Tim Schafer humour. Whether it's up with par with Psychonauts and Grim Fandango, I'm not quite sure, but I think it's still a really, really solid one from Schafer, and Jack Black's great.
So it sounds like you could have got away with not playing the game at all, but just watching the cutscenes.
Yeah, the cutscenes are really good. They're really, they really capture, I think, the heavy metal and the humour is coming through, which is really good. And I think that's a trademark of Tim Schafer, that getting that sort of humorous stuff through. So I mean, I think if you sat through and watched all the cutscenes, you'd have just as much fun as well. But I mean, the game's great too. I mean, the game, it's got the environments that are lush and they're nice and everything's done, and the story flows really cohesively, which is really well told, which is really good for a game these days.
Okay, so that's Brutal Legend. Now let's look at the Xbox Live update that's due later on this month, but we've had a wee preview look at.
Yeah. As you know, the update's coming at the end of November, I think, and what that's going to do, and this was announced at E3 this year, that they're from the end of November, when you get the update, you're going to be able to use Twitter, if you've got a Twitter account, and Facebook on Xbox Live. Mm-hmm. And also, you're going to be able to, there's going to be a movie download service, which means that you'll be able to basically stream, it's going to stream the movies right from the servers that are straight onto your Xbox and watch them on your TV. Starting with the Twitter and the Facebook. I mean, they're I've had to play around with those, and I think you have to, Glenn. And I think, I mean, they're basic. I mean, they're basic compared to the versions you get on the PC and that sort of thing. So they're very basic, but I mean, they're functional. But I think personally, I don't know how often I'd use it.
Yeah, my criticism is that they're separate applications, so you have to load them on the Xbox like you would load a game.
Yes, you do.
And so they don't integrate with anything.
No, and I also think that I know that you can get a keyboard and stuff, a USB keyboard, but for most people they'll be using the controller, and it's actually a real pain. You trying to type a fairly lengthy message using sort of the virtual keyboard using control sticks.
Yeah.
So I think novelty value. I mean, I think people will use it and say, "Yeah, great, cool, I had to go." But with a long term, people want to use it.
The one cool thing I found about the Facebook thing, and the one thing I will find myself using the Facebook application for, is viewing photos, because it's an easy way to browse your own photos or your friends' photos on Facebook and get them up on your nice widescreen TV and have a wee slideshow for everyone. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, that's great, because I mean, there's another good function that using the photos, because being able to put your photos up on a big screen is really good, and it makes it a lot easier for when you've got friends and people around. So I mean, I think that option will be used really well too. Because it's sort of merging both your digital media and your TV together, which is really good. And now the movie download service, I mean, I'm probably going to use that a wee bit more. I actually had a crack of it last week, and I watched Full Metal Jacket on Thursday night, and it's a great film. I loved it.
Any good?
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a really Hardy's Vietnam, sort of the horrors of Vietnam sort of thing. But I was interested to see whether or how the high definition worked on it, because what you do is that you go to the homepage or the movie site, and you can browse through a variety of movies. I mean, the movies I thought a moment, hopefully they'll update those. I mean, there's nothing that I would have called real sort of blockbustery type. There was things like, Goodfellas and Iron Giant for the kids, and I think there was a Jimmy Neutron, and there's some Richard Gere ones, and it's sort of, there's some horrors and some thrillers and that sort of thing. Then what you do is that you select the movie that you want, and like if it's available in a high definition version, it'll cost you 420 Microsoft points, which I think is about $7.
Right.
And a standard definition will cost you about 320 Microsoft points, or about $6. So you're talking about the price of a DVD if you're going to rent it for the night. And then if it's got on high definition option, it actually has a connection test first, so it's got to check whether your broadband speed's going to be able to handle streaming it down at high definition, because the big selling point for the service is that you're not going to have to download the movie first and then watch it. You can actually start watching it from the get-go, and it starts streaming right from the start. But unfortunately, my connection wasn't fast enough for high definition, and for streaming high definition, I think that probably will be a bit of an issue for a lot of people here because of just our broadband infrastructure, because it's not.
Yeah, you must be living in New Zealand, Gerard.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I am, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I read somewhere that I think to get a consistent, I think 1080i high definition streaming with 5.1 audio, you've got to